Welcome to the Veterans History Project. My name is Walter Little. It is March 19th, 2016, and we're at Camp Withicum in Clackamas, Oregon. And today we have with us Michelle
Condon.
Condon. I don't know why I have such trouble with that name, but I'm going to call you Michelle because I can say that correctly.
Yeah.
And Michelle, where were you originally born?
I was born in...
Where were you born?
I was born in Akron, Ohio in 1953.
And how long did you live there?
Till I was about 6 years old, and we relocated to Las Vegas, Nevada.
So you went from cold to nice and warm.
Yeah. Green to brown, yeah.
Yeah, I like green better than brown. So you're in Las Vegas and you grew up there then, attended high school there.
Right.
And what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be an archaeologist.
And when you were about to graduate, what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a member of the United States Navy.
So you graduated when you were 17.
Yeah.
So you had to wait till you were 18 to join.
Right, and I turned 18 that September. And a month after that, I was sworn in.
And which branch did you choose?
I chose the United States Navy.
Why would you choose the Navy?
My daddy served in the Navy, and my daddy served. And the uniforms were really cute. Okay, I can't lie. The uniforms are really cute. The hats are really cute.
So you have a lot of military in your family then?
I do. My daddy served during the Korean War. My one uncle, I have two uncles, served during World War II. And my grandpa, Condon, served during World War I. My little brother was in the Army. He was the only one that was an officer. We were all of us were enlisted. My nephew is now in the Air Force, enlisted in Kuwait.
And where did you attend basic?
Bainbridge, Maryland.
So now you're going back up to the cold weather. And when did you do that? What time of year?
It was in October. Probably I flew in there. I got sworn in October 14th, 1971. I probably landed in Bainbridge October 15th, 1971. And I remember getting on that plane, and at that time Social Security numbers weren't used. We were given a military ID number. And it was like that you were loading in and and there was a woman with a checkboard saying, your number is D830810F. Know that number by the time we land. And that whole flight, D830810F, D83. Yeah, and now people get to use their Social Security numbers. It was quite different back then.
And then what happened after basic?
After basic, I tested into and was sent to Corps School to be a corpsman. I went, and that was in Great Lakes during the winter time. And then it was all about ooey gooey stuff, and we had to watch an autopsy, and my stomach wasn't up for that. So I requested a change in duties, and I was given 3 different little locations I could go be stationed at. One was in Ely, Nevada, one was in Hawaii. Why I didn't do that one, and one was in Imperial Beach, California. So and I was really sheltered when I was a kid. I wasn't a wild child or anything, so I wanted to be close to my family, and I got a map out and put string to see which one was the closest to Las Vegas, and I eventually chose Imperial Beach. So I was stationed in Imperial Beach, California, in a squadron HS-10. It was a helicopter anti-submarine training squadron, the Warhawks, go Warhawks. And I was a yeoman at that time. And that was back in the days with the old typewriters and 27 pieces of carbon paper. So it was a challenge. And
well, if you don't mind, I'd like to step back to basic again. You were in a women's battalion then. You didn't train with men back then?
No, and it was called companies. We were companies. And no, we were totally segregated. Women, for the most part, were kind of prejudiced against in the Navy because we took up shore billets. And for every woman, a wave that was in the Navy, a sailor, was the belief a sailor had to go out to sea. So we were pretty prejudiced against. We had the nuclear submarine sailors over here, and they were getting trained, and then our boot camp was the main part of Bainbridge. And during that time, I didn't wear much makeup or anything, and we were taught that, we had to present well in our uniform. That included things like, wearing lipstick. Some of the girls came in wild childs. They had to learn how to tweeze eyebrows, wear makeup. If our hair was longer than to our collar base, it all had to come off unless you knew how to keep it up without strangling. So I went in with my hair down to my waist and ended up getting it cut off to my collar. But because we had to present well, we had to be pretty because we were representing the Navy. And it was back in those days, Now I just heard a lady speak that said, we were soldiers, we didn't wear makeup, we had to fit in, and I was like, boy, that was really different.
And in your basic, they taught you how to wear makeup as if you didn't know.
And I had to lose 10 pounds to get into the service, so it was a weight restriction that made me, I was 5'10", and I had to get down to 150 pounds, so I looked pretty sucked up whenever I went in because that 160 was my good, comfortable weight. So it was a lot about appearance back then.
Much more so than men nowadays, right?
Yeah.
So you got stationed at Imperial Beach.
Imperial Beach at HS-10. And like I said, it was an anti-submarine helicopter that we trained pilots in. So I started out as a yeoman, but because I was the first wave there, they'd never had a female posted on that base yet, I was made an exception. When I got there, they had no barracks or housing for me. So what that looked like was, okay, you're going to get BAQ and comrades. What we're going to do, you got to go find an apartment. You got to do this, you got to do that. And I knew nobody there. I did not know the city. I'd never had an apartment. I joined right from my parents' home. And so it was really challenging. It was really challenging because I was a little girl,
Well, hopefully it wasn't as bad as mine. My first apartment was furnished. I found out that night that the height of bed didn't have pillows, blankets, sheets. The bathroom didn't have soap, towels, toilet paper.
I stayed with a sailor. He let me stay in his bedroom so that I could learn how to save money, do anything. I didn't know. I'd been literally a little girl for a long time. So eventually I did find an apartment in Imperial Beach, but I was staying in Chula Vista. I didn't have a car. I wasn't prepared. I thought I'd go to base, have, a little place where they would have for a girl. But we were so discriminated against. It was just like, no, boys and girls can't mix. So anyway, so that was my first challenge.
So you were working basically in an office environment for the most part?
Yes.
And what was that like working around other soldiers or sailors, I should say?
Yeah, let's see, I learned how to play AC-doocy. I learned how to, because it's important we fit in, right? It's really important that we fit in those days. So what that looked like was going to the enlisted men's club, learning how to drink like a sailor, curse like a sailor, and I did that over an extended period of time. It wasn't like overnight. I learned how to drink like a sailor, but shoot pool, because I wanted to be one of the guys. I did not want to be this little flower girl over here that they were treating me like, right? So the niche that got me in was they did this big spread in the base newspaper about me going up on my first helicopter flight, and they had briefed me I was going to go up and dump ashes into the ocean. A lot of old sailors like to have their ashes scattered. And so what that was for me is we went up into this helicopter, full gear, but in those days they didn't have the helmets that protected our ears, but full gear. They strapped a belt around me, opened the bay door, and I had this box, and I had to lean way out over the ocean to dump the gentleman's ashes. And so during part of that process, they turned the rotors on me, and a lot of the ashes came on me over my bubble mask and everything. And I knew that was a test. I had learned enough. I was savvy enough to know that was a test. So what What I figured they were waiting for is me to cry, for us to land and me go tell on people, or for me just to let them know how I felt about it. So they learned how I felt about it, but it was by, there was some obscene gestures I did, and that was the point whenever I became one of the guys. And after that, I just never had a problem. I got to wear, back in those days, the women's uniforms were really, the pants we had to wear were from like the 50s, so they had these big wide legs, little ankles. And so I was like, I got to fit in. Why can't I wear Seafarers? So I got to wear jeans. Why can't I wear a ball cap instead of another style hat that we used to call a name I won't mention on this tape. And I got to wear the ball cap, and I became one of the guys. I literally, and I watched other women as they came in. My roommate had just broken the barrier, was the first helicopter mechanic. So she'd broken that barrier, and she and I were one of the guys, because we had to work so hard not to be seen as something else. We had a separate name. We were waves. We weren't sailors. We had to work really hard to fit in. And there was prejudice, like I said, because we took up the shore billets. And so there were some angry sailors at us. But so she and I fit in well. Now there were two other women that came in that had a little more difficult time because they were in different relationships with our brothers then. And so for her and I, we skated. We had a lot of fun. It was fun.
But even then, you're one of the women that paved the way, especially at that base, for other women to come in and be accepted. It
was not easy in the very beginning, because I just didn't know. Like I said, I was a little girl. I wasn't little, but I was like a young, innocent girl.
18, 19, 20?
Yeah. 18 and a half, I think, probably is when I got to Imperial Beach, something like that. I hadn't turned 19 yet. It was a challenge that I met and kicked butt. Oh, sorry.
No, you can say that. You can say that. That's not full sailor talk anyway.
Yeah, right?
So how did you like serving then?
I'm really proud that I was able to serve my country. I'm really proud. Coming to an event like this today and being honored for serving during Vietnam era touches my heart. Because I've never seen that before. And today, because I served, I get to have a career. I'm a peer support specialist at the VA in White City, Oregon, the VA source. And I work in the homeless programs.
How did you get involved in those?
It started, I went on kind of a crazy path during my life. I'm 62 years old, so there was times in my life where I stepped away from life and kind of went and hid. And when I was 49, I decided it was time to stop. I had great careers, bought houses and all that, but there was a real dark period in my life. And I began college at 50 years old and got my associate's degree and became a certified alcohol and drug counselor for the state of Oregon, which is what that was my passion at that time. And I worked in that field, and there was just something that said, go work for the VA, and I don't even know where that came from. I didn't know how to apply. I sent in an application on usajobs.gov I sent them a certified application packet, and I got a phone call to come in for an interview, which I thought would have been for addiction therapist. It was for a peer support specialist, and this was in 2009. This was the new movement towards peer support. So I was the first peer support specialist hired at the White City VA, and I continue to work in that field. I did go into addiction therapy for a while, and it didn't feed my spirit like being a peer support specialist does. I'm still the only female peer support specialist at the VA source, but I have a sister in the community that is the second peer support specialist that's a female. And I started out in the mental health program. I went to the substance abuse and hated it. And I got hired in the homeless programs. And it's the path I'm supposed to walk. I know that. So what I get to do today is support my fellows. My favorite group of veterans to work with are the crotchety Vietnam era veterans that have been spit on so much. That's my group of guys, and I serve them well, and we have fun. I've helped veterans get housed through our team, not just me, but through our team, to get housed that have been homeless for over 22 years, rode the rails, lived in shrimp boats, and have not had a roof over their head. And through these wonderful programs that our community has in Medford, White City, Central Point, Ashland, in that area in Southern Oregon, we're able to provide and get assistance from our partners to help with deposit money, getting power bills turned on, furniture. It's amazing. It's amazing what our community, we're so veteran-centric down there. We have the Rogue Valley Veteran Community Outreach, the SSVF program, and and White City, and we all work together as a team, along with St. Vincent de Paul. I mean, it's amazing. And to get to see these vets that haven't got to have a home in so long come in, and they now have a home, and to be able to be there to support them, to maintain that home, and help them if maybe they decide to drink and they get a little, in trouble with the alcohol, to be able to support them to get them maybe back into treatment if needed. I get to take them to recovery meetings. I mean, my job is service to my fellow vets, and I wouldn't ask for anything better. And that directly stems from me serving my country. Without having a veteran history, I wouldn't have this position. For the VA, we have to be, and work with veterans, peer supports have to be a veteran. It's amazing. Sorry, I rambled. But that's why we're here. My soapbox is the way they treated my brothers when they came back from Vietnam. Jane Fonda, the traitor, that probably won't make this, and working with my brothers and sisters, and that is my life right there. I have a lot of self-care outside stuff I do, but my spirit, that's what it just screams to do that.
Now, you weren't the ground force in Vietnam at the time, coming back and getting all that baby killer and stuff.
Yeah.
But you were a Vietnam era vet.
Those were my brothers and sisters coming. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I will really get angry. Those are my brothers and sisters coming home to these people that didn't have a clue. They were busy burning draft cards, running to Canada, doing whatever they could to stop from serving their country. And these kids are coming home, and they were children, are coming home because they got drafted and did the honorable thing and didn't run away. And these people are going to spit at them, call them baby killers, stick flowers in the ends of guns, turn in their social security numbers to the Jane Fonda thing is really my big deal. And when those POWs got left behind by her, that's one of my biggest rages. But they were kids. Even if they were grown men, they were kids when they got sent over there. Sorry, I get really emotional about this.
No, this is a major issue.
It's my fire.
It was the first time that Americans served in a battlefield, died for their country, and were totally disrespected.
Yeah, it's
and this
rage.
is 40 years later before we're starting to make amends for some of these things. It's ridiculous.
Well, this gentleman and I were talking about the welcome home thing, and I feel it too is getting it's like an overkill now. We're home, we get it, we're getting our services. I'm angry that Agent Orange just got connected into being a service-connected disability right about the time that my brothers are passing away from the causes of Agent Orange. So, that's there's my soapbox, I'm done. Okay, so now what do you want to talk about? Sorry.
I was happy being on your soapbox. I agree with you completely. It was wrong. I had friends come back from Vietnam, and it's all the disrespect they got. But you were active in the military during this period of time. You had to have gotten some of the flack from that too, from people being in the military, because the entire military was despised for almost, almost 20 years.
Yeah, well, people at home didn't understand why I even joined the military anyway. Women don't go in the military. It's like, but because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't serve my country. And that was my deal, was serving my country. And, okay, is it not recording? Okay, sorry, you have to edit
We'll edit
that.
that. She's good at editing, by the way.
So yeah, it was difficult. I got alienated by a lot of my friends. When I came home from boot camp on leave, they had a big party. I still have a scar on my head from cracking a bottle of champagne open and the cork bouncing off my forehead. We had a big party, but then I left. Everybody else stayed home and did their college or whatever, and I was gone. And things changed. I changed a lot. My friends changed a lot, and yeah. If I can, today people get to walk in their uniforms with pride and hold their head high. I remember having my uniform and going through the Chicago airport, I can't think of what it's called, whatever, and carrying these heavy bags, my duffel bag, and then we had a Foot Locker that you had to tote around with you too, and no one offered to help. Just, I was not a respected member of society serving in the military. Knowing I volunteered, people are looking. We didn't get drafted. We women stood up. We women stood up and said, I want to serve my country. I want to stand next to my brothers. And that wasn't taken very well. We were, especially during that era, we were supposed to be sitting at home, married, pregnant, waiting hand and foot. Sorry. Okay.
No. I agree with you. See, I'm with Israel. Israel believes that serving in the military is a responsibility of a citizen.
Yeah.
So when you become an adult, you're required to serve, I think, 2 years. It's mandatory. And I wouldn't be against that in the United States because the military, number one, you're giving back to your community. Mm-hmm. And number two, it does so much to take a child and turn them into an adult. Mm-hmm.
And that's what it did.
I used to say, man, I'm talking about what I had to say.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it did for me. I got pretty angry. I probably drank too much. That's kind of was the scenario for the Navy. I don't know if it still is, but I probably drank too much. I learned how to party, pretty good. But when I came out, I knew how to take care of bills. I knew how to pay rent. I owned a car outright that I had bought. I mean, there was a huge change in my life over that little 2.5, 3 year period.
And did they have GI Bill back then?
They did, but I didn't use it.
You didn't use it.
When I got out, I went right to work. I took a while off and got my head straightened back on because there was other incidents that happened while I was in the military that kind of, I had to heal from. But, so it wasn't all fun and games. I don't want anybody to think it was all fun and games. And today, the unfortunate part is the VA won't recognize the trauma I went through, And so that's really frustrating. Sometimes you can feel like you're victimized all over again. But so I came home, took some time off, and then I went to work and started doing more or less secretarial work and everything. I became a 911 operator and a police dispatcher in Las Vegas, again serving my community. I think the military instills the value of service in the people. I am so proud. I am so proud that I made that choice to serve my country. Even if a lot of people didn't think too highly of it, who cares?
Well, screw. You were doing a lot of clerical work back then.
Yeah, that's what women did.
Nowadays, you have spell checkers. You make a mistake, you got the back key.
Yeah, no.
And all this. But back then, you had that manual typer. You had.
I did do manual. I got to do electric, but we had pages of carbon
paper. Yeah. So if you made a mistake,
you're screwed.
Yeah. So it was a lot of work back then. You had to be very accurate and stuff.
Yeah.
And did you compete with the men when you were doing that?
No, I was the girl in the office. Come on, Michelle, why is the coffee made? Why is this? It just was that era. It was, I wasn't the big women's right things. I just wanted to come in, do what's best, and leave. So yeah, I learned, because I'd never made a pot of coffee in my life. I learned how to kick ass in coffee. I learned how to really beat some people in AC-doocy. I learned, and I became a grown-up through that, as opposed to just a little lost girl that wanted to be as close to their family as she could be.
Now, your parents raised you to be patriotic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And do you have children? Are you married?
No,
Family?
I've never had children. I've got 3 failed marriages, but yeah. It's okay. It was fun while it lasted. I cannot regret my past, nor wish to shut the door on it. So everything from all my childhood to my service, this whole 63 years I've been working, and working on myself or learning, and has led me to who I am today. And I think I'm really good people. The best thing I do is serve my fellow veterans. I stand proud in that every day. Every day. There's not a day that doesn't go by that I'm not grateful to get to go to work. Because I know that day I'll touch someone's life or they'll touch mine.
So how do you feel about women being in combat now? When you went through basic, did they even offer you combat training?
Oh, no.
So you didn't have
Women didn't even go shipboard, except medical people.
Right.
Yeah.
But they weren't given combat training at all either, were they?
No. Oh, no. I heard a story about a woman who was put into a combat company or whatever, that she had to be issued a gun, but they wouldn't issue her ammunition because they're like, you are not going to be shooting a gun. I think the general told me that story yesterday. But women going shipboard, I had a difficult time with, just because of an incident that occurred to me while I was on post. It's a confined area between, young men and young women, and I feared for my sisters, and women in combat. That's their choice. I would not be the one that would want to cross that. Thank God for the women that have, so my sisters can stand up and be able to be recognized for who we are as soldiers, as sailors, so we can so we can be recognized. And thank God for those women. They paved the way. I paved the way of just doors starting to open. That was my generation. Like I said, my roommate Betty Lou was a helicopter mechanic, one of the first to ever go through the training. So, but thank God for these women that have the gumption to be able to do what they want to do and stand up for their rights. That's what we're about. We're a bunch of strong broads in the service. We really are. And, and it's time, and now we're being recognized for that. We're not just somebody to pat on the head, take pictures of in the parade, and, we kick ass.
Well, the prejudice nowadays and the stigma of being a woman and being in the military is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be some.
Yeah, always, because people are prejudiced. This
Right.
world will always have prejudice.
But the Navy and Air Force and stuff, the actual branches themselves have pretty much incorporated and accepted everybody.
Well, we're no longer waves, we're no longer WAFs, we're no longer BAMs, we aren't any of that. Now we're soldiers or sailors, and that's how it should be. But back in my day, that's not how it was. I just rolled my eyes really big. You'll have to edit that.
No, everything's good. So, what would you say to young people who are considering military?
That is one of the most important decisions you'd ever make in your life. If you don't want structure, if you don't want to learn how to have a focus-driven life, then stay in your mom's basement, smoke your weed, do whatever. No, I'm sorry, that was just, I'm being a smart butt now. But
No,
just go after your career goals. If you want to serve your country, do it honorably, and get what you can out of it. Get what you can.
So do you have nephews, nieces?
Yeah, like I said, my niece works for Amazon. She's a 3D graphic artist up in Seattle. And my nephew is in the Air Force. He's crew chief on B-1 bombers, and he's getting ready to go back over to Kuwait, I think in 2 months. He's been there once already.
So you're working with veterans now,
Yes.
the homeless and stuff. How does that make you feel when you take somebody who's struggling and give them a hand up?
Like I said, it feeds my spirit. The whole thing of working with my fellow veterans is the greatest gift that I could have gotten from serving my country. Even though it took, I discharged in '74, and I got to work at the VA and began working there in 2009. It might have taken all those years for me to grow into the person I am today. But first and foremost, serving my fellow veterans is a gift that I can compare to none.
And how long have you been doing this now?
The peer support work for the VA since 2009. But the VA is pretty awesome because they will let you buy back your military time. So in August of this year, I will actually have 10 years service to the federal government, which is pretty cool. I'll do this until, probably they carry me out in a stretcher. I think about retirement. Ooh, I want to retire. And then I think how empty my life would be if I wasn't doing exactly what I'm doing.
So, what would you say to a young lady that wanted to join the military?
Like I said, I would say decide if you really want to do it. Make sure this is what you want. Make sure that you want to be part of a family that is going to be like you're going to have a strict father or a strict mother who is going to teach you how to live your life by rules and regulations. Just like whenever I was growing up, I had to learn how to chew with my mouth closed. I had to learn that stuff in my childhood. When you go into the military, you're going to learn a new way of life. You will be blessed if you choose to take on that challenge head on and know who you are. Because if you don't, if this is just something like, oh, I'm going to get my college, don't freaking do it. If you want to serve your country, get out there, kick butt, take names, and stand proud of being a female veteran. That's what I'd say.
Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we close?
No. I think I've just about said it all. Sorry for the curse words. I really try to cap off that sailor in me, or wave. No, I'm a sailor now, I guess.
Well, Michelle, thank you for coming
Thank you.
and sharing your story with
Yeah.
us. This is the Veterans History Project. Thank you for joining us.